Hi everyone, welcome back to the Avon and Voyager Author Showcase Spring Fling Edition. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lara and I'm a marketing and publicity manager here at Voyager.
And I'm Jess, I'm a publicist here at William Morrow, specifically Harper, Voyager, and Avon. Summer 2024 is getting hot. We have so many great titles to talk to you about today and we're going to get right into it.
So much so that we're shaking things up a bit this time around. Not only will you hear from Avon and Voyager authors, but we also invited our friends from Harper Teen to talk about their upcoming YA books that you might be very interested in. Stay tuned for all of this and more coming up. Over to you, Jess.
First up, we have Shirlene Obuobi with us to talk about her new book, Between Lovers and Friends. Shirlene made her debut in 2022 with On Rotation, a coming-of-age novel featuring a combination of romance and medical drama. Shirlene returns with another touching and humorous book in the same vein, but with a twist this time. As many of us know, dating in the age of social media can be messy, and Josephine, also known as Dr. JoJo to her countless Instagram followers, is familiar with this sentiment. Let's pass it over to Shirlene to show us more.
Hi, my name is Shirlene Obuobi. I am a physician, cartoonist, and author. My sophomore novel, Between Friends and Lovers, is out July 30th, 2024, and I am so excited for you guys to see it. Between Friends and Lovers is about physician influencer Josephine Boateng, who is really going through it. She's got childhood trauma, she's grappling with depression, and after spending all of her life fighting to get into medicine, she's not even sure whether she's gonna pursue a career in it. I like to joke that I am a little bit lazy when I'm coming up with my characters' backgrounds, but the fact of the matter is I know a lot about art, I know a decent amount about being a writer, and I know quite a bit about being in medicine, and so I tend to borrow what I know to create my characters' backgrounds, their lives. And of course, I gotta talk about the romance. So Jo is also in love with her best friend of 10 years. And at the beginning of the novel, she realizes that maybe she needs to get over him. She needs to be looking for something different, something better. And Between Friends and Lovers male lead debut novelist Malcolm Waters is gonna give her just that. The dedication is made out to strong girls who everyone knows how to consume, but no one knows how to protect. In crafting one of the conflicts in Between Friends and Lovers, I looked at the experiences of a lot of famous Black women who have found themselves under undue scrutiny for the crime of just being visible. Specifically women like Megan Thee Stallion, FKA Twigs, Normani. I wanted to write a story in which she could be cherished and loved and protected. And if you can't tell by the cover or the title, this book features a love triangle. I tried to subvert some of the typical tropes in love triangles, just like turn some things on their head. So I hope that you really enjoy it when you get a chance to read. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys enjoy Between Friends and Lovers, and a reminder, it's out July 30th, 2024.
And now for that shakeup we mentioned, we have a lot of really great epic romanticies this summer coming from our friends at Avon, Voyager, and Harper Teen. And here to talk about it is New York Times bestselling editor of the Hurricane Wars, Julia Elliott.
Hi, I'm Julia Elliott, and I'm a senior editor at William Morrow. I work with authors like Thea Guanzon, Hannah Kaner, and Rebecca Ross. There are so many great romantic fantasies that are coming from Avon Books, Harper Voyager, and Harper Teen this summer. I can't wait to tell you about them. Here are some that you can add to your TBR right now. First up, The Amethyst Kingdom by A.K. Mulford. You've probably heard of The High Mountain Court, which was the first book in A.K. Mulford's sexy, inclusive, and action-packed romantasy series, The Five Crowns of Oakrith. Since meeting Remy and Hale in Book 1, we've fallen in love with Rua and Renwick in The Witch's Blade, Bree and Lena in The Rogue Crown, and Nilo and Talon in The Evergreen Heir. Now the journey ends in May with The Amethyst Crown. This is a love-hate-love romantasy where two exes compete in deadly trials to determine who will reign over the Eastern Court. Karis and Ursun's story is the final piece of the puzzle. Who will bear the crown? Let's talk about A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. This book comes out in fall 2024, but we couldn't help giving you this very early special look. This is the first book in a brand new romantasy series, and it features dragons, witches, sexy warriors, and tropes like enemies to lovers and arranged marriage. It's going to be perfect for the Fourth Wing fans. So this is about a royal whipping girl named Tasman, and she's accustomed to taking beatings for the sins of her kingdom's princesses. But when she's tasked to marry the man known as the Beast of the Borderland in place of one of her sisters, forbidden passions ignite and dark secrets will change everything. Lexi Ryan, the #1 New York Times bestselling author of These Hollow Vows, is back for the first book in a brand new fantasy duology, and it's called Beneath These Cursed Stars. We're returning to the mystical world of fairy with new characters and even more romance. This is a YA romantasy, and it centers on a human princess armed with Death's Kiss and a Fae shifter. They're going to become unlikely allies when a mission to assassinate an evil king collides with a fatal prophecy. This is going to be a must-read for fans of forbidden romance. Now let's talk about some throwbacks. Avon Books is re-releasing 2 best-selling romantasy series with gorgeous new covers. First up, we're releasing new editions of books 2 and 3 in C.L. Wilson's Terran Soul series this summer, The Lady of Light and Shadows and King of Sword and Sky. If you loved her book Winter King, you're going to adore the Terran Soul series. It has fated mates, touch them and die moments, dragons, elves, steamy scenes, and even a custom Fae language. It's the perfect blend of fantasy and romance. Fans of Court of Thorn and Roses are going to love this series. Seriously, Elisetta and Rain walked so Fair and Riesland could run. Books 1, 2, and 3 in Ilona Andrews' Hidden Legacy series are also getting new trade paperback editions. That's Burn for Me, White Hot, and Wildfire. Romantasy lovers are going to love this sexy series. It features creative world building, heaps of humor, and a slow burn romance. When dark forces invade Houston, Nevada is going to team up with handsome billionaire Connor Rogan, one of the highest and most dangerous magic users in the world. I hope that you loved hearing about these sexy, fantastical romantasies that are coming this summer. Remember to add them to your TBR list and enjoy.
So have you heard the term spacemans?
No. What the heck is that?
Okay, we have obviously romantasy, dark academia, but this summer, Emily Hamilton will be putting the term spacemans on the map, aka space romance. Her debut novel, The Stars Too Fondly, comes out in June, and it's a sapphic space rom-com with death, alternate dimensions, found family, and so much banter. Think Becky Chambers meets Casey McQuiston, or Star Trek but more queer. I was lolling, I was crying, I was hysterical with this book, and when I finished it, I immediately wanted to reread it. Without further ado, here's Emily to talk about her debut.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Hamilton. This is Mimi, she wanted to be in the video. And my debut novel, The Stars Too Fondly, is coming out from Harper Voyager on June 11th, 2024. This is the gay science fiction romantic comedy I wanted to see in the world. My parents raised me on Star Trek and Star Wars, and they were divorced, so I raised myself on rom-coms from the 90s. And so this book is just a mashup of all those things that I love, and I figure if this is the book that I wanted to read, it's also the book that other people are going to want to read. It's a story about a group of friends who break into an abandoned spaceship where the crew mysteriously disappeared 20 years ago, and they've grown up in the aftermath of that disaster. The ship starts all by itself. They're stuck on the way to another planet. And the only person there to help them is a hologram of the ship's captain. And so this book is about a lot of things. It's about friendship and found family. It's about whether we can have ethical space exploration under capitalism. And it's about what do you do if you really want to have gay sex with a hologram? So I think if you love romance novels, I think you're going to like it. If you love science fiction, I think you're going to like it. It's got all those things you want, tons of tension, tons of romance, and also tons of campy sci-fi adventure antics in space. So I would love you to check it out. And I can't wait for you to meet my disaster girls and their disaster friends. Thanks.
So, Lara, I have to ask, if you were stuck on a spaceship, what is the one thing you would bring with you?
Probably my Kindle, and I'll pray to the gods and the stars and everything that there's Wi-Fi and like good connection up there. What about you?
I think I would definitely bring a notebook. I am a rom-com writer in my spare time, so I feel like when I'm out there in space with nothing to do, it would just be like a really great time to think and to write stories, and instead of running out of stories, I could just create some of my own.
Exactly. That sounds great.
Yes, and speaking of rom-coms and also a little bit about space, we have a lot more books to discuss that are out of this world. Is that a little too corny? I think it is. So if you enjoy rom-coms, you'll enjoy this list of books that will make you laugh, cry, and fall in love. Author Elliot Fletcher joins us to tell you more about our rom-coms releasing this summer, including the print edition of her swoon-worthy contemporary romance, Whiskey Business. Let's turn it over to Elliot.
Hi everyone, I'm Elliot Fletcher, author of the up-and-coming rom-com Whiskey Business, which is an opposites-attract romance starring a fish-out-of-water actress and the deliciously grumpy whiskey distiller who are forced to work together to save the business they both love. In this book, you can expect a lot of heart and steam, plus a very fun to write, tension-filled whiskey tasting. I hope you love April and Mal as much as I do. The ebook is out now and the paperback arrives in June. Avon has so many amazing romances in store for you in the sunny days ahead, so let's look at a few books that will be flying onto shelves this summer. First up, we have Summertime Punchline by Betty Corrello, a second chance romantic comedy about a female comedian who returns to her Jersey Shore hometown and confronts not only her past, but the man who broke her heart years before. This hilarious debut novel is heartfelt and full of heat, perfect for fans of Christina Lauren's Love in Other Words. Next up, we have The Ride of Her Life by Jennifer Dugan, the sweet and steamy follow-up to her rom-com debut, Love at First Sight. Fans of Alexandria Bellflower will devour this sapphic romance featuring a down-on-her-luck city girl Molly who lands in small-town USA after inheriting a struggling horse barn from her late aunt. But the barn's grumpy farrier Shani, who's as hot as she is judgmental, is not happy about Molly's arrival or her plans for the barn. This rom-com features all the delectable tropes: enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine, and opposites attract. It's like a Hallmark movie, except it's hotter and it's sapphic. And finally, a book I know we all can't wait to get our hands on. Dubbed as the Michelangelo of Dirty Talk, Tessa Bailey returns with The Au Pair Affair, the second book in her Big Shot Sports romance duology. Book Talk fans will adore this sexy hockey romance featuring a single dad who falls hard for his quirky live-in nanny. As professional and personal lines begin to blur, this surly hockey player will have to put everything on the line to fight for his happily ever after. In this rom-com, you can expect Tessa's signature humour and steam, plus fun tropes like forced proximity and age gap romance. Thank you so much, Avon, for having me along today. I've had so much fun, and happy reading, guys!
Jess, there are so many good rom-coms coming this summer from all across the board here. What is your favorite rom-com ever, book or movie?
Ooh, I was actually just talking about this the other day with my friend. I think my favorite rom-com movie of all time is 50 First Dates. I can watch it a million times.
That's such a good one. We love like the OG movies.
Yes, what's yours?
Cheese the Man. I will die there. What's your favorite cheese? My favorite's Gouda.
There are so many good rom-coms. I can go on forever. This would be a whole different showcase of us just talking about what we love. But yes, speaking of rom-coms, brace yourself for the next book because the weight of spice is more than you could ever imagine. And no, not the kind you're thinking of. The Spice Gate is an epic fantasy debut and standalone novel perfect for fans of Shannon Chakraborty, Ken Liu, and Andrea Stewart. It's set in a rich, immersive world with Indian influences in which spice is the source of power. Here is Prashanth to tell us more about it.
Hi, my name is Prashanth Srivatsa. I am from Bengaluru, India, and this is my debut fantasy novel, The Spice Gate, which is coming out of Harper Voyager in the US on July 16th and in the UK on July 18th. And this cover, the US cover, has been designed by the phenomenal Omar Gilani, who has managed to capture the essence of this novel so beautifully that I just can't stop myself from showing this cover to whoever wants to look at it. About the book, in the Spice Gate, the different kingdoms that are there, they are all far flung from each other. They're separated by inhospitable land, but they are connected by these relics of one ancient god, which are the Spice Gates. They are mysterious, they are mystical, nobody knows how they work, only that you sprinkle some spice on it and it takes you where you want to go. Except not everyone can access the Spice Gates. Only a few chosen ones from birth are able to use the Spice Gates, and contrary to what would be expected, that this is a case of privilege, in fact, it's the most downtrodden, the lowest caste of the social order, the spice carriers, who can use the Spice Gates, and they are branded with this mark at birth. And why this is so is because passing through the Spice Gates is considered to be an impure act, right? It's an act of pollution, and it's also terribly painful for the person passing through the gate. So naturally, it is reserved for the most socially backward and downtrodden castes of this world. And the protagonist, Amir, is one of them, who is desperate to get his family out of his hometown and somewhere where his family can be saved, because his brother is coming of age and he is next in line to join this line of carriers who transport goods and spices and you know what, carrying heavy sacks on their backs, passing through the gate, which is doubly painful, and obeying the whips of their masters. And now, where will Amir go? Who are these people who will stop him, and who are those closest to him who might turn their backs on him? And will he find this Shangri-La of sorts that he's heard about, where spice carriers will live a life free of this oppression of caste? So that is the crux of the Spice Gate. It has beautiful kingdoms. It has pirates. It has huge monsters that just eclipse the moon and the sun, and it has food. It has tremendous amounts of delicacies and mouth-watering, tongue-burning food. Because in India, food is something that people actually divide on, right? Food is something that is actually divisive and oppressive. And I've always wanted to explore how food can be a medium of subjugation, and that is why the Spice Gate, right? And the Spice Gate is something that's written both in the kitchen and in the streets. Is how I'd like to think about it, and I hope that when you read it, you get to tell me what the aftertaste is like.
Are you more of a light reader or a dark reader?
I'm definitely like the rom-com light and fluffy reader. I do kind of delve into some darker stuff sometimes, but definitely like my heart lies with all the light and fluffy stories. But what about you?
I honestly, right now in this current day of my life, I'm in a rom-com mood, but I've been venturing into the dark side of the moon with some dark fantasies coming up from Voyager that I can't wait for everyone to read.
Can't wait to hear.
Speaking of, up next on our last little snippet of the night, please welcome Cade from Hey Atlas Creative as they talk with Marianne Gordon, QUINN DIACON-FURTADO, and LYNN Buchanan about their books coming out this summer. These books all range from dark fantasy to dark academia. And here to tell you more about their books are the authors and Cade.
So nice to meet you all. I would love if we could just start out with your name, your pronouns, and like a one sentence summary of your book. Maybe like either five words or one sentence, whatever you think is the most powerful to get your idea across. Let's start with Marianne.
Hi, yeah, sure. So my pseudonym is Marianne Gordon. My pronouns are she, her. My book is called The Gilded Crown, and it's my debut, and it's about a woman who can raise the dead. So necromancy always comes with can I have 6? A price. There we go. Necromancy always comes with a price, I suppose, is the tagline. And it's about, a lady who can raise the dead and makes a deal with death to do so.
Lynn, can we go to you?
Yeah. So I'm Lynn Buchanan. My book is called The Doll Makers, and it's also my debut novel. The pitch I always use is creepy dolls that fight creepy monsters and the women who make those dolls. I guess to go maybe a little more in depth than that, it's about a woman who spent her whole life learning how to make magical dolls to fight monsters, but then she's told that her dolls are too beautiful and delicate to fight the monsters. So she sets out to prove everyone wrong and just spreads chaos and confusion in her wake as she does so.
I love that. As soon as the first time I read that summary, I was like, I have to read this because I just need to know like what does that even mean? It's so unique. Quinn, let's go to you last.
Thanks. I'm Quinn DIACON-FURTADO, they, them pronouns, and my book is The Lilies. It is about 4 students at an elite girls' private school that enter a time loop, which is all tied back to one shared traumatic memory that they all have in common. So as they're reliving this memory, they have to try to find a way out together, but that also means facing some of their biggest regrets together. So fits under dark academia, thriller mystery, maybe a little speculative fiction in there too.
Cool. So I'd love to know what inspires you to write such dark topics. And also, like Lynn, your book has been described as cozy fantasy, which again, very excited to learn how and why. But I want to know what inspires you to write such dark topics, but also do you, in all your books, all 3 of you, do you have an aspect of coziness to kind of balance that out? And feel free to jump in.
Sweet. I would go first because I could talk about this forever. So my favorite stories growing up were first of all, like fairy tales. I think honestly, like the first dark fantasy, in my opinion, were fairy tales. We get a lot of like their darkness scrubbed sometimes in modern retellings. But they have this awesome like mix of whimsy and darkness to them. And I just like ate that up as a kid. Like I loved like Spirited Away. The Rats of Nim was one of my favorite movies. And as I get older, I'm like, wow, progressively more disturbed that I love that movie as much as I did. So when I started writing, I think it just kind of naturally came out that I started writing books that were more dark and kind of gruesome at times, but also with this edge of whimsy, because I just love like the fairy tale edge, which is how my book became cozy horror, is like how we pitch it. It's because I have like the more like whimsical side of things in my story, but then I have like the darkness as well, like the horror elements that I just in my head work perfectly together, and maybe they don't, like largely. But yeah, that's why I write the way I do. Those are just the stories that stuck with me when I was a kid and what I interacted with. And so when I wanted to start doing my own stories, that's kind of what came out in my writing.
Anyone
I
want to
really
jump
love
in
that you
next?
use folklore. That's really cool. That you that it's kind of inspired by folklore and it's got a mixture of coziness and darkness in that. I think, kind of mine's kind of similar actually. I mean, one of the kind of recurring motifs I always say that's in my story is one that recurs in like myth and legend, which is one of like sacrifice, of kind of seeing how far a character can be pushed to get what they want to have and what they're willing to give up to do that. So the unspeakable challenges that they'll do to achieve their goal. And it's the idea that it's not always going to be a happy ever after. Mine is not cozy at all. The only coziness that there might be is a very friendly raven, but he's there just as like the plush toy in the corner to try and combat some of the death magic. But yeah, I mean that harks back to fantasy as well. Odin's crow and things like that. It's always nice to have a familiar raven who can be there to cuddle the reader.
Yeah, I think similar to you, Marianne, like the Lilies, like maybe not super cozy, but the 4 protagonists, they all have like queerness in common. And so there's a lot of tenderness, even when there is like intense animosity in between them, just that queer tenderness that like is so quintessential to friendships, is like very front and center in this. In addition to that, in terms of the darkness of it, I just feel like we're living in dark times, man. I think it's times when it's hard to be a young person. And as a writer for young people, it feels like it would be a little dishonest to act like everything is normal and okay in our present moment. So writing stories that are tonally dark has been a way of navigating that for me. And I also feel like, you know, similar to the characters in the Lilies, like embracing that darkness, exploring that darkness, facing it is the way to find, you know, a pathway out of it, to something more authentically hopeful. So that's what draws me to dark literature in general.
Yeah, that's so true. I hear that a lot from readers and authors. You know, readers, it's like, why are we reading these super dark topics? But yeah, sometimes it's a little comforting to read something a little bit darker than where we're currently at, you know? I would love to know how you get in the headspace to write these dark stories. Do you have like a playlist that's like your go-to? Or I would love to know if there's like a song that encompasses your book that you really just like feel super passionate about, that you listen to and you're like, yeah, like this is it. Or is there another totally different way that you get into that headspace like each day that you're writing?
I'm happy to go first, I guess. I mean, my favorite song that came out of this, I actually do have a favorite song, but it happened after the book was published, where people were opening up the locked library boxes and having this song playing over on their Instagram reels. And it was "You Should See Me in a Crown" by Billie Eilish. And I heard it and I was like, that is perfect. Why didn't I think of that before? But no, I didn't have that on in the background while I was writing, although I kind of wish I did. But just a lot of like, it sounds kind of stuffy, but like Max Richter, and it's just really calming, soothing music, and it effectively wipes away everything external, and it's a little meditative as well, so you can just, yeah, be in a bit of a bubble away from it all. Otherwise, like I wrote it during the pandemic, and that was a really good mind space for chaos thinking, oddly enough. So yeah, that was weirdly conducive in the most backward sort of way for me at the time.
Oh, that's so funny because I actually was writing doll makers at the beginning of the pandemic as well. Uh, or COVID books, just a little darker than all the others.
COVID babies.
Yep. But similarly, I put instrumental music on the background when I'm writing. I honestly have searched for a song with lyrics that I feel like fits the doll makers, and I can't find any, which makes me sad. So if anyone finds one, let me know. But what I listened to a lot when I was writing is the soundtrack to Princess Mononoke, the Ghibli movie. Specifically the song Journey to the West was the one that I just had like on repeat pretty much the whole time. I wanted to channel the Ghibli vibes, the creepy cute Ghibli vibes as much as possible.
Yeah, I hear you about having certain songs on repeat in the background while you're working. I also like can't really write with lyrics on in the background, but I can procrastinate very well with like refining my playlist. That's the mood playlist for the book. And so the Lilies had like a ever expanding, contracting playlist as I was working on it. The song that I think best captures it is like, you know, this is gonna date me a little bit, but it's a Radiohead cover. No surprises. But the cover by Roman G and Arthur with Janelle Monáe is just like a really beautiful rendition of it. And it's multivocal, which I think like, you know, having different singers sort of reflects like the four different perspectives in the book as well. So yeah,
I
I'm
love
excited
that.
to share that playlist eventually with folks.
Yeah, that Radiohead song is such a vibe. So I love that so much. I'm gonna think of that now. Um, I would love, we're kind of running out of time, but I'd love to talk about the meshing of genres. When we kind of talked about it with yours, cozy horror. Quinn, I've read that yours is a little bit like dark academia, mystery thriller. Would you also say it's a little bit of a locked room because they're in this school? And do you want to talk about that at all? Like why you felt that those genres really, like mixing the genres gives you more room to play with, or does it kind of put you into a smaller box?
Yeah, so when I'm writing, I'm really not thinking about genre, like in general. And then also as a non-binary person, like I just generally struggle with categories in general. And so with that said, I feel like those things, those elements of like locked room, dark academia, they're like really helpful ways of like folks finding the book. And I also like, when folks use those terms to describe it, it helps me better like see different elements of it that like maybe I wasn't like totally thinking about when I put it together. I do think the locked room element of it, the fact that they keep coming back to this closet, which is in itself like animate in some ways. It's a pressure cooker. Things keep changing in it and they are not quite sure why. That also ties back to dark academia and like one of the tropes that the places or objects are their own characters or have their own sort of like energy to them. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see sort of how these like themes pervade multiple different works that like maybe the author's just writing and like not thinking of genre, or maybe they're really going for a specific aesthetic. For me, I'm more driven by themes. So like queerness, exclusion at private institutions, memory is like a big thing with the time loop. So all of those things were top of mind for me when I was writing.
What about you, Marianne? Did you think about it at all when you were writing, or did you just write the book you wanted to write? And thankfully, these mixed genres are okay now. So,
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat, honestly. I didn't really write with a kind of view of writing dark fantasy, mythical retelling sort of thing. It just splurged out and has been kind of categorized since then. And I think it's worked really well. I mean, I really like dark fantasy fiction because it's got horror in it, right? Which is itself kind of a mixture, and it can be more experimental. I think it's a really good genre for pushing the boundaries more and experimenting with it, different ideas than more mainstream fantasy or straight up horror, which wouldn't necessarily have the right audience for it. Like, for instance, you can have it from a monster's point of view or from someone who's morally gray, or yeah, it's just a really cool kind of flexible, vibrant, exploratory alternative, which also is a really good space for more important themes like, gender identity and things like that. And in for my book, especially about, mortality and how far you'd go to save someone. And even having it in a fantasy setting, I think helps having like a step removed. It's not quite the real world, makes it a really good kind of counterintuitively like a safer environment also to explore them, to make them, to make people feel more like, able to think outside the box and explore them and feel like they're being kind of kept safe in this environment. But that's just, that came kind of, all this thought kind of came after the fact of having written it rather than going through my head at the time.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love this fantastical world, but you're working with these really real themes that are obviously important to you. Quinn, you also talked a little bit about that. Lynn, I'd love to know, what is your important theme that you had going into your story that you hope that readers can get out of it?
Yeah, so Dollmakers is actually a coming of age story, and I wrote it as a reflection on my own coming of age and kind of like, and also my journey as an artist as well. Just kind of coming to terms with like being so sure you know what you want in your life and like so determined that you, and like straight as an arrow, you know where you're going, and then realizing that you're wrong, or at least that there needs to be more nuance in your life than what you think there is. So that's the heart of the story, amidst the monsters and cozy vibes. It's just like the coming of age. And I also, it's adult fiction, and this was kind of a soapbox of mine when I was writing it. I firmly believe that coming of age belongs in adult fiction as well, because I know from my coming of age, great for YA as well. I'm not like knocking on it, but I definitely felt like I came more of age as a person when I hit my 20s and when I was starting to like go into adulthood. And so I was like, why don't we have more coming of age in adult fiction? And I will fill that gap that no one asked for, and enjoy it while I do it. But yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I love that so much. And I feel like as an adult, you appreciate the coming of age stories a little bit more too. So reading them as an adult is you want the stories to be written for you, to reflect back on. That's kind of all the time we have, but I would love to just for you all to say when your book is coming out. I know, Marianne, yours is already out in the UK and it's coming into the US soon. So maybe we can just go around and say again the title and the release date.
Sure. So yeah, it published, The Gilded Crown published in November in the UK, and it's publishing in the US in July, I believe. I hope that's right.
The Lilies is coming out April 30th.
Nice. That's earlier than what I had written down, so that's exciting.
Yeah, they changed it. It's earlier than what I was anticipating too.
Awesome.
Trying to get on it.
The Dollmakers comes out August 13th.
So, Lara, there were so many great books we talked about today, but my question for you is, what are you doing for the rest of the night?
All of these gothic conversations kind of put me in the mood for a Studio Ghibli film, so I'll probably do that tonight. What about you?
I think I'm going to get into bed with a rom-com and a glass of wine and just unwind. I hope you guys all unwind the rest of your night tonight. We thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to talk to us about our upcoming books. And of course, we're going to be sending along the link to this recording so you can share with your friends and colleagues. And we look forward to hearing what you're interested in this year.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.